Hello. Hope everyone is doing well. Just letting everyone in the waiting room. How's everyone's lunchtimes, afternoons? How's everyone's Tuesdays going? I always feel like Tuesday's a bit of a weird day. Don't know if anyone else agrees. And let me see. Agree. Tuesday is a weird day. Glad we are in agreement. I sometimes feel like Tuesday is weirder than Wednesday. Yeah, I'm glad everyone agrees. I'm just letting everybody in from the waiting room. Hopefully it should just automatically let people in. So close to Sunday, but so far from Friday. Correct. Worst day of the week. Oh, that's a bit heavy, isn't it? I wouldn't say it's the worst day of the week, but I mean, if you want to think that, that's okay. I hope everyone's okay. How is everyone? Let me know in the chat how you all are. For everyone who hasn't been to a webinar before, I am Olivia. I will introduce myself more in a minute. And today's session is going to be all about building an online engaged community on social media. So let me know how you are, what you're up to on this Tuesday. Wednesday, there's a glimmer of hope that you are halfway there. That's correct. And let me know, yeah. So I've seen Ella said it's her first or their first Girls Marketing webinar. So let me know if this is your first time or if you are a avid fan of Girls Marketing. I know we get a lot of mixed people come in, some people who've been before, some people who've never been. So it's so nice to see so many new faces. First time, quite a lot of first times, impressive. Amazing. Okay, so I will just get into it then. So, okay. I'm hoping that Zoom is just going to do its thing, to be honest, and just let people in. Izzy attended Chelsea's webinar yesterday. Amazing. Hopefully you've had a good time with that. Fabulous. Okay, so hello and welcome to Building an Engaged Community Online with me, Olivia Hanlon. So a little bit about me firstly. I am the founder of Girls in Marketing and I am from Liverpool in the UK. So we are a little, well, kind of big. I think we're like the 5th biggest city in the UK. Read that fact the other day. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't got me already. I know quite a few of you will probably have me, but if you don't connect with me now, that would be so nice. Let me know in the connection requests that you are at the event or that you've been to the event, because I do go down after every event and accept everyone. It'd be nice to have you all in my circle. So a little bit of background about me. I worked previously in full-time in a kind of corporate marketing role, doing organic marketing, so kind of SEO. I did some social stuff, I did email stuff, lots of different things. I've also worked freelance before as well, mainly in SEO and content and copy. So I am very much an organic girl all round. So that is kind of why I thought the session would be really good today to chat, because I think community is a massive thing at the moment and so many people want to kind of get involved with it, start their own, build kind of online engaged communities on social media in particular. And I have built one of the biggest ones along with the team with Girls Marketing. So it's only fitting that we do this webinar today. Just to let everyone know, yeah, a few people have said this will be recorded, it is being recorded, and you will be sent out afterwards. It will be available on our YouTube channel, so do not worry if you have to hop off. I'm not offended. It'd be great if you want to stay, but if you can't, don't worry about it. Fabulous. Okay. So I feel like it's just not letting people in automatically, so that's okay. We're okay. So a little bit about Girls in Marketing. So I know some of you said that it is your first ever Girls in Marketing webinar. So Girls in Marketing is an e-learning platform and a community, and we are on a mission to bridge the digital skills gap and equalise gender seniority in marketing. So currently we do a lot of different things, including virtual events like this. We had our very first in-person event back in May, which was so much fun. The video montage is actually on YouTube now, so make sure you check that out. If you search Girls in Marketing on YouTube, you'll come across our channel. There are some other free webinars on there as well. So if you are interested in learning more about our kind of webinars, are a great way to do that. So definitely check that out, and our in-person events. We do have another announcement coming soon, hopefully towards the end of the year, for another location for an event. So definitely keep your eyes out for that, because it'd be great to see some people there. But yeah, generally we are a community. We're all here for each other. As you can see in the chat, everyone is super lovely, and we all just want to make friends, do great things, learn some stuff. And it's a really lovely community to be a part of. I started Girls in Marketing back in 2019 when I was working full time, and I just felt like I didn't really have marketing friends. I had a few colleagues that I worked with in the office, and they were super lovely, and I really got on with them, but I didn't really feel like they were people that I could call friends. So what I decided to do was go away and find people who were just as passionate as me about marketing, and luckily I found all of you guys and hundreds of thousands more other people out there. So it is super, super lovely to know that that community was so needed. And yeah, it's been great over the past 3 years building what is now over 250,000 people across socials. And yeah, as I said, we're now doing in-person stuff as well. So super exciting. So in terms of what we're actually going to cover today, so we are going to be covering community, and community is very much a buzzword, and I think that like a lot of people talk about community and talk about, okay, what is it, how do I build one, why does it matter? So we're going to cover all of that today, because I think it is really essential to make sure that we are understanding what it is that we are building. Before I just continue, I want to make sure, let me see, it says this, enable reading. Okay. Fab. Okay. Yeah. I'm just making sure everything's working. Okay. Let's carry on. So yeah, community is very much a buzzword, and I think that we get kind of caught up in the idea of community because so many people talk about it. But we're also going to talk a little bit about why community actually matters for brands, the difference between an audience and a community, because a lot of people talk about building a community, but actually it's just a kind of glorified audience. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're also going to talk about valuable ways that you can build a community, because I know that you guys will be interested in that if you've signed up to today, as well as keeping your community engaged and in that kind of community mindset as well. So let's just get straight into it. Community is it possibly the biggest buzzword of 2022 in marketing? I feel like everybody talks about community these days. And in all honesty, I wouldn't say it was a huge thing maybe 3 years ago when I kind of got started with Girls in Marketing. It wasn't something that people were using all the time. There was a few kind of small communities, but now brands are building huge communities, especially kind of 2021, 2022. Possibly the pandemic kind of played, I know it's the dreaded word that no one likes to talk about, but possibly the pandemic did have a kind of impact on that, because people wanted to have a community that they could relate to. But actually communities and social media communities and brands building communities has been a thing for quite some time. I think it's just become a massive buzzword, especially in the last few years. And in all honesty, what does it actually mean to build a community on social media? Because it's all well and good saying, I want to build a community, I'm a social media manager, or I'm in charge of socials. How do I actually build a really engaged community that want to not only engage with us on socials and kind of be a fan on socials, but equally then kind of convert in whatever way you see conversion, whether that is kind of sales and leads, or possibly kind of sign-ups to things and stuff like that. So what actually is a community when it comes to social media? Well, a community on social media is a place that people can feel they can relate with common experiences or interests. So most communities are built around kind of commonalities. So people have a similar interest or a similar passion or a similar experience. So if you were to take Girls in Marketing, for example, we have built a community of girls in marketing, not completely limited and exclusive to girls, because we get a lot of people saying, what about typically we use girls for younger people, but we have people of all different ages, of all different genders, kind of getting involved with our stuff. So it's not specifically girls, but definitely marketing is a key point. So people who are interested in marketing, people who are currently working in marketing, and people who just want to generally make friends. That's kind of where it comes when it's our community. But there's so many other kind of brands that have built communities as well. In particular, Nike. So I want to talk about this now. Nobody come at me for how I pronounce Nike, because I know some people pronounce it Nike and some people pronounce it Nike. So please don't come at me for that. I pronounce it Nike. I am from Liverpool, so that may be incorrect. We had a debate the other day with the girls of the team who pronounces it Nike and who pronounces it Nike. Anyway, the importance of that is this case study. So Nike have built a community that aligns with its brand and its products. So they are world famous for inspiring customers to feel like they belong when they exercise in particular. So kind of fitness, exercise, physical activity, that's kind of the community that Nike have built. And it has this long running slogan that most of you will probably be familiar with if you are familiar with Nike as a brand, and it's just do it, which is kind of synonymous a lot with kind of self-belief, going for something and physically just doing it. So if we're taking Nike as a case study for a brand that's built a community, they created Nike's Run Club, which takes the philosophy one step further. So we've already got the brand who kind of embodies everything about empowering people, telling people to do things they want to do, getting them to kind of exercise, that kind of thing. But then we've also got this Nike Run Club, which allows people to connect with fellow runners in their city. So it started essentially as a run club, so a club that people went to. I'm not sure if it was kind of weekly or monthly, but they would attend them in their local city. People were kind of setting them up, but primarily they were kind of run by Nike. And then from that, they created the Nike Run Club app, which allows users to kind of track their runs. They challenge friends, get motivated to kind of keep going. And they also have a Nike Running Instagram, which showcases people within their community and encourages others to share their story. So it is really nice what Nike have done with this, because it originally just started as a really cool project to get people like connecting with others in their city. And then they obviously kind of developed an app off the back of that because of the success. And then after that, they've kind of created a Instagram so they can share more around that community. So rather than kind of sharing the Run Club community on just Nike's Instagram, they wanted to create an even kind of more tight-knit community with a separate Instagram, and that Instagram is really interesting. So this is one of the reels. I don't think it's got any sound, but it's essentially just kind of saying, find your community. I was looking for my community, and this is one of the reels that Nike Running have recently put on, and it's all about being part of the kind of Nike community. But equally, they are all wearing Nike as well. So it is really interesting because it puts community at the forefront of what they're doing, but equally it kind of puts the product at the forefront as well. So while Nike, they could have just created activewear and footwear and stopped there. They didn't need to go any further. But they didn't do that. They continued. They took their customers, they built a community, and they've connected on a level that they felt created the most impact. And then by doing so, Nike have been able to build brand awareness, generate customer loyalty, because people feel really connected to each other as well as physically connected to the brand, which is really kind of nice to see, especially such a huge brand, because you might be familiar with Nike as a brand, but you might not be super familiar with their Run Club, or maybe you are. It is very much like something that if you are interested in Nike as a brand, you probably will be aware of the kind of community they have with that. And I just thought that was a really clever case study to show, because sometimes it can be really hard to kind of understand communities that aren't just a community like ourselves as girls in marketing, because we were built as a community. But this is kind of showing how a brand has transitioned to create community off the back of a brand. So then, why is it important for brands to create community? Why is community actually important? Well, it creates a sense of brand loyalty. it improves overall brand awareness. So people are talking a lot more about your brand because they're involved in the community. They feel a sense of connection to the brand because they feel a sense of connection with other people. It really allows people to connect with others that maybe have similar interests, similar passions, that sort of thing. And it is just really nice to see in general that people are connecting with others off kind of just social media as well. Obviously, social media is a backbone for quite a lot of communities to be built, but it's taking it a little step further. In particular, obviously the Nike Run Club, they take that completely offline, which is just really nice to see. And also it helps to kind of gain recommendations and testimonials, because another thing that you will probably struggle with being in marketing is how do you actually create and get recommendations and testimonials from people, because that's something that a lot of people say to us, I really struggle to get kind of feedback and stuff like that. Whereas if you've got a community that you can reach out to, that you can say, you know, we want people to help us, we want people to give us testimonials and stuff like that. And because people feel a sense of loyalty, they're much more likely to kind of give you what you want in return. It's also a form of organic marketing, so it really doesn't cost a lot to do so. If you are working in a marketing role, building a community on social media might be your number one priority. You might have a team that helps you build that community, or if you have a smaller budget, it could just be part of a social media manager's role. It is entirely up to the brand, and that's something that if you were going to kind of pitch building a community to a manager or something like that, you would have to consider the time that it would kind of take up. And it doesn't take up that much time, to be completely honest. It's just more about the way you go about it and the kind of strategy behind it as well. And one thing I want to mention is that vanity metrics shouldn't matter when you are building a community. What really matters is impact. That's something that you should 100% lead with. That's something that I've led with the entire time running Girls in Marketing, is that it's not about the numbers. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes if you have large numbers, they are really impressive. But actually, it's the impact and it's the individual impact that you make on people's lives that really does make a difference. And before we kind of go any further, I really do want to kind of hit pause on everything and just talk about vanity metrics, because I think that they are quite toxic, to be honest, especially at the moment with different social media platforms and kind of reach being hindered, people not doing as well maybe as they used to on social media. And I know that there are a lot of people, maybe people who are, you know, here today with us, that are kind of really worried because they work in social media. And as much as people kind of talk about it and say, you know, and laugh about it, oh, it's the life of social media, it's actually quite serious. And I think that people do get hung up on vanity metrics, but please don't, because if you think about a kind of community of people, if you've got maybe 10,000 people that are in your community, but then let's think and stop and really think about numbers. Even if you take it on a really small scale of like 100 or 200 people, genuinely think about that many people in a room or in a stadium or anything like that. It is absolutely crazy that anyone would want to get involved in your community and your kind of social media and engaging with you in any way possible. So I would honestly say, don't get too caught up in the numbers and just really focus on what are the numbers, how are the numbers impacting the people that I am reaching, because vanity metrics can change literally from day to day. And one day you could be doing super well and the next day you're not. And that is something that as a social media manager, you may be used to. But if you're not in social media, you may not be super used to that. And what I want to now go on to is the difference between an audience and a community, because so many people kind of, I know I said before, so many people talk about community and say, okay, I built this community. Maybe you're a brand and you've built a social media following of however many thousand people, and you say, this is my community, but actually, is it a community or is it just an audience of people? That's the kind of difference between communities and influencers. Sometimes influencers do create communities, but they kind of become exclusive communities within an audience. So that's something that I really wanted to focus on, because I think a lot of the time people confuse the two. So a lot of the time, businesses will really spend time focusing on building followers, like kind of looking at the metrics that are on the surface, but actually building a valuable community doesn't focus on those metrics. It focuses on, okay, how can I create a community within this audience that is super engaged, want to kind of buy from us, want to become newsletter subscribers, podcast listeners, blog readers, all that sort of thing, because you can have a huge community, but actually does that kind of translate into all these other things? So I would honestly say, look at your strategy when you are creating one, after we've talked a little bit about how to do so, and make sure that you aren't just focusing on building an audience. So I thought this diagram was really interesting. So an audience is where one person talks to many, and then a community is where many people talk to many. So there may be a kind of key brand or a key business at the center of that community, but actually everybody communicates within that community. So if we go back to kind of Nike, they obviously are a massive brand and they will have a lot going on in their kind of brands and everything like that, but they've built a community of they also have an audience of social media followers, however many, probably millions, but their community that is Nike Run Club is a lot smaller. It's still a decent size because they've been going for a few years now. But the difference there is that they have an audience and they have a community as well. So I would honestly just say, really think about that when you are building and thinking about your kind of audience. I wanted to bring up something that people may know of or may not, but there is a group of YouTubers that are specifically from the UK, and I thought what they've done is really, really interesting. So they're called the Sidemen, if you are familiar, and they are kind of YouTubers. They're a YouTube group that do kind of loads of different things, challenges and funny videos and stuff like that on YouTube, and they built up millions of followers on YouTube as a platform. And recently, I think it was kind of started this year or end of last year, within the last kind of year or so, they created a new community that was their own, so they own that community within another platform called Side Plus, which was essentially a community within the audience, which was so interesting. They've monetized that community, which again is, people have said they are familiar with the Sidemen. Great. They're called the Sidemen. And they are YouTubers. I particularly think they are funny, but they basically do loads of different things. They have an audience, but they equally have a community as well. So they have a paid for community, but they also have free aspects of their community as well, you know, forum, Discord, stuff like that. And it is just really interesting to see how they've monetized that, because they already had their brand as YouTubers and as influencers, and they had an audience, and they then created a community within that. And then the interest for that community would literally be sometimes that what it boils down to is the brand. So people in that community are simply just interested in the Sidemen. The difference between maybe a community like Girls in Marketing and a community like Nike, the community interests are possibly Nike, but also like exercise, physical education, stuff like that. But then, and then if we take Girls in Marketing, the kind of similarities might be marketing and stuff like that. So there's a difference between the two, but I just thought it was interesting between the audience and kind of community side of things. Okay, so, but not everyone has Nike's budget. So you might be sat there thinking, okay, this is really interesting, and I love the idea of, you know, Nike and what they've done, but not everybody has the budget that Nike has. So I want to talk about ways that you can build a community specifically on social media. So firstly, you want to focus on your people, and you want to focus on engaging, because it's the best part of building a community. Taking time out of your schedule to engage with your community throughout the week, it can really make a difference to how they feel about the community in general. You want to also make sure you are encouraging people to connect outside of the comment section. So as much as you want to encourage people to comment whatever they want, you want to create forums, groups, discussions, just get your community talking, get them kind of connecting with other people, because that is where the huge difference between audience and community comes into it. You want to make sure that you are responsive and accessible, because that is one of the main issues that a lot of people come across, is that you want your community to feel confident approaching your brand when they need to. So making sure that you are always active, you are responsive, you are approachable and reachable. Understandably, if you do run a kind of social media account or a social strategy that involves a lot of people, it can be difficult to keep up with that. But maybe think about, okay, how do you bring in something that can deal with that, whether that's maybe an admin person or maybe a few hours out of each of your day, if possible. Being responsive is really important. A lot of the time as well, the responsiveness can come from maybe like a customer service team or something like that. It doesn't always have to be someone who works in marketing, but it's really important to do so, because that's one of the biggest barriers for a lot of people. LinkedIn groups as well, are really great, especially if you are kind of B2B or you're creating something that is more based on professional level. So if you are looking for people to connect outside of the comment section, Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups are a great way to go. So just consider, when you are thinking about, okay, what sort of community am I building around my brand or this brand that I'm working for, and think, okay, is LinkedIn the best place to create a group, or is Facebook the best place to create a group? And also consider, okay, how much upkeep is this going to be? If you create a LinkedIn group, are you going to start engaging with people in the LinkedIn group? If so, how much effort will that take? And equally with Facebook as well. Sorry that the light's just gone off. Sometimes it does that. It's like automatic. And next is some more ways. Oh, lights back on. Magical. You also want to niche down so that you're only attracting the right people to your community, because this is so true when you are creating social media content. You want to build a community of like-minded people, but equally you want to think of your bigger business priorities. So if you are a social media manager or you are someone in marketing that is doing social media, you don't want to just be creating a random community that doesn't mean anything or do anything for anyone. It does more for the people that are in it than it does for the business. So really niche down in who you are actually attracting, so you're getting those correct people. You want to also social interaction CTAs, so encourage people to talk, to chat wherever you can. Obviously, this is similar to the kind of create a community outside of the comment section, but sometimes creating a community within the comment section is just as nice. So maybe switch it up when you are creating CTAs. Sometimes you want to do social interaction CTAs, and sometimes you want to do kind of joining a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group or a forum or something like that. The biggest thing really that may be an issue that you have to overcome is that social interaction CTAs don't generate ROI, so you won't get that return on investment straight away. But actually building the community is possibly the best thing that you can do for a brand, because you are generating that kind of brand loyalty. You want to also make sure that you keep your social media a nice space. Apologies for the spelling error on space. It says a space and nice space. It meant to say kind and nice space. Delete spam comments, and just make sure generally that you are monitoring any kind of comments and posts, because sometimes people can spread hate or kind of be offensive, and you want to monitor that in the best way possible. It's not always possible, don't get me wrong, but what might happen as well, if you build up a kind of Facebook group or a LinkedIn group or a forum, you might end up that the actual community members themselves start reporting things if they are kind of offensive or they are hateful. So in terms of a quick task, are you a part of any kind of brand-led communities? I would love to know, what does that brand do for their community? If you are involved in a brand-led community, what do they do? Perhaps they kind of do giveaways or competitions, or they host webinars, stuff like that. let me know in the chat box, because it'd be really interesting to know of any other brands. I obviously mentioned Nike before. I know there's a lot of activewear brands that do have kind of more exclusive communities, because activewear in particular brings certain types of people that are into kind of fitness and health and well-being. Equally, there's lots of other brands that do it. Foodie businesses are big on communities. So it'd be interesting to know if you have any other ideas for any. Lucy and Yak have a good Facebook group for buy and sell purposes. Interesting. Mostly YouTuber communities who have merch. There's a lot of kind of brands, influencers as well, definitely on Instagram. They kind of create their own communities, but there are a lot of brands that have products or services that also have communities as well. It's always really interesting, especially if you have a kind of particular niche that you want to kind of go into. I think I've just seen something about wellbeing and mental health. I work for a wellbeing and mental health company, and we set up a free online network and LinkedIn group, which has generated quite a lot of interest. Yeah, so I'm just reading out this comment because it says we've been struggling to attract the right sorts of people because we're currently trying to niche down a little bit more. Again, it is difficult if you have a more generic kind of niche. Even if you take, for example, like mental health is a massive umbrella. So even if it was going to be a little bit more specific to the types of people, maybe people who have previously struggled with their mental health or types of mental health conditions, that sort of thing, because no niche is too small. You will honestly find that, to be completely honest, it's never too small, a niche. A local chain supermarket created a cooking community that shares recipes. That's really interesting. I know there's a lot of brand-led communities that do that, where they kind of create communities around foods and recipes and cooking, which I always think is really nice. And equally, there's been a lot of people that have set up communities that have then went on to be organizations. So if you take, there was one on Facebook that I used to see all the time. I can't remember what they're called. There's a few different ones, like the kind of BuzzFeed. I think it's called like Tasty. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but they had their own community that was built on a community, and now they have like recipe books. They have other communities. They have a massive organization, which is great. And I'd love a tasty recipe. So do I. Everyone loves a tasty recipe. So I think it's just really nice, because if you are a member of any of these communities, it's so nice to kind of be a part of it and be rewarded by maybe the brand who's leading it and stuff like that. So from a marketing perspective, you might see these ideas as, oh, like maybe I'll take this idea and I'll do a giveaway, or I'll do a competition, or I'll host a webinar or something like that, because that's seen as kind of giving back to your brand community. Social media really does play a part in community success. So you always need to make sure that your content aligns with your value proposition. It attracts your ideal community member, who should also be your ideal customer of your offering. So your ideal community member isn't someone that is not going to buy your product or service. They are your ideal person. Sometimes if it's kind of B2B or B2C2B, it might be that actually your ideal community member is your consumer rather than your customer. So the person who consumes your products and services rather than the person who buys them. For example, if you run a child's toy company, your ideal community member won't be the child. It will be maybe a parent or a guardian of the child, but the child is your consumer. So your ideal community member is your ideal customer. But equally, it could also be the consumer. Obviously not if it's a child, because you won't be able to build a community on social media of children. But that is just kind of a good example where sometimes your customer isn't necessarily your consumer. You want to also provide value natively on the platform. So give people knowledge and value for free. Just make sure that you are giving that all the time, especially on social media, specifically, obviously, with your value proposition and your ideal community member in mind. And you want to also leverage any content tools, because then you're going to get maximum traction with it. And just remember that it's likely that there's many people in your community that possibly aren't customers now, but will go on to be a customer, or maybe they've been a customer and they are just part of the community now. So they may become a fan and a regular kind of returning customer, or possibly they are part of your community and they won't purchase or do anything for multiple years to come, but actually just being part of the community makes them feel special. And maybe in future, if it was, for example, a kind of child's toy community, maybe they don't have children yet, but they want children in 10 years, they may be a part of your community and know of your brand for those 10 years before, but actually when it comes to it, they are a loyal customer. So that's kind of why it is really difficult to track ROI of community, because often you're not going to see direct leads straight away. Sometimes you will, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the time you won't. It will genuinely be a kind of waiting game to build that community and kind of get that traction with a variety of people that kind of fit your niche. So once you've started building your community, how do you actually keep them engaged? Well, I want to just dive into the top 3 ways to keep your community engaged. Number 1 is to understand your community mindset. You're there to serve your community, not to use them. So when you understand the community mindset, you need to ask yourself, how can we do better? There's always something that you can do better for your community. How can we make them happier? How do we address their pain points? And you should really only care about 100 fans rather than the next 100. And I know in business it can be really difficult, especially maybe if you have a line manager or you have kind of targets to achieve. It can be really difficult to focus on those 100 people, those 100 fans. And a lot of the time you're like, okay, how do I get the next 100? And focus on those kind of vanity metrics. But actually focusing on those 100 that are there right now will benefit you in the long term. And just understanding general community mindset, because then you can also feed that back. If you have a product team or anything like that, you can kind of feed that back from a marketing perspective. If you're seeing your community struggling with a certain thing, you can go back and you can say, actually, our community wants this from us or wants this from our product or service. So building a community can be really great for feedback and kind of product development and stuff like that. You want to reward your top members. So you want to make sure you're rewarding people within your community, maybe by offering them discounts on products or services, possibly giving them access to a referral or an affiliate scheme, and then occasionally kind of finding new ways to make them feel special. Because people who are consistently involved in your community, if they're not a customer, there's a reason why. So it could be cost, so offering them a discount, or it could be that they want some sort of rewards for referring people, where a kind of affiliate or referral scheme comes into it. And equally, any other ways that you can just generally make them feel like you value them as a part of your community, because then you are nurturing them to possibly become a customer in future, which will obviously benefit the brand a massive amount, because they become loyal to the brand. And finally, to stay true and authentic to the brand. Being authentic to your community will keep communication transparent and fair. It's the best way to be with your community, to keep them engaged, to keep it real. Social media should be a place to show your community who you are behind the scenes, and just kind of have no filter, just be as honest and open as possible, as long as it aligns obviously with your kind of brand values and missions and your overall proposition. Just really stay true and authentic. I know authenticity as well is another huge buzzword in marketing, but genuinely just kind of being who you should be on social media, especially a brand, people really appreciate that, especially as we are in 2022. People want to see authentic brands. So that is everything for today. If you've got any questions, I would love for you to put them in the chat. But if you do want to learn more about social media strategy, including community building and also paid social media, we have a special webinar attendee discount. So we recently released an e-course with Oxford College of Marketing, and it's currently off for you guys, the price. So the e-course is $39.99 until Friday. So you can scan this QR code, or you can use the code community at the checkout if you want to purchase it. It would be really great to see more of you guys on the course. It's completely self-paced, so you can kind of do it at your own time. You get a certificate at the end, so you can post that on LinkedIn, put it on your CV, all the exciting stuff. But yeah, it's been an amazing course to produce with Oxford College of Marketing. They are a massive brand, really great to work with them as an educational institution. And the course itself, we've had great feedback from so many people so far. We've had a few of you guys maybe today, or other people from within our community that have purchased the course and have really enjoyed it. As I said, it's entirely self-paced, so you can come back to it at any time. If you are working for an organisation, feel free to pitch them this if you want them to purchase it for you as part of your professional development. Bearing in mind, obviously, the course discount is only available until Friday, but you can purchase it yourself, or you can take it to your employer and pitch it to them. But it would be great to see more of you guys posting about it and learning so much about social media. Because there's a lot in there, especially about paid social ads, because I know that a lot of people really struggle with that. Obviously, this community building webinar was all about that, and there's more on community building, types of communities, there's more case studies. And what is really exciting actually is that I did 2 interviews. I did one with Brownie God. I don't know if anyone's seen them on TikTok. Genuinely the most delicious brownies ever. And I also did an interview with the social media manager at Innocent Drinks, which is really cool. And that was basically about how they leverage social media. So if you are interested in those interviews as well, they're within the course in the first module. So definitely make sure you purchase the course if you haven't already. Fabulous. Also, if you are an unlimited member, the course is $29.99, so even more of a discount. So if you want to sign up as an unlimited member first, you can go on our website, sign up as an unlimited member, and then buy the course. It's even cheaper if you want to do that. That would be great. We always love welcoming new people into our community. I'm just reading if there's been any questions. So this has been recorded, so I will send out the recorded version after this, so don't worry about it. And the course link to buy the checkout will be in the email as well. Has anyone got any questions? Just trying to see. If you do think of any questions as well, just give me a message on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer them separately. I know it's quite hard to kind of get through everyone. I don't want anyone's question to be missed. If you do have a specific question that is more tailored towards you and maybe your organization, feel free to give me a message. What would be some advice to someone who runs government socials where the rules and regulations in place? There is obviously more of a difficulty if you are public sector. This is kind of more tailored towards kind of private sector, B2B, B2C, that sort of thing. There is a lot more difficulties with that. I would honestly check with your contracts and kind of check documents, maybe ask line managers, what are the kind of regulations, understand the rules and regulations first before you start creating a community, because to be completely honest, I'm not sure what the rules and regulations are in regards to engagement. It might be that there is a kind of open-ended, you can do this but you can't do this, so I would definitely check with your line manager, but I'm sure there's certain things that you would be able to do. Tips to engage with a passive audience, how can we make them more engaged? There is a real difficulty if you've built a community of people and then you also have people within that community that are kind of maybe more passive, or you have an audience that's more passive and you want to make them a community. To be completely honest, it is about how can you probably I'd go back to rewards as well. So passive audience sometimes will be people who watch my biblical lectures or your kind of audience for a long time. So it might be that they want to kind of feel that spark again. So think about the ways that you can make them really excited about your brand, about, you know, the being involved in social media. So maybe a kind of reward, whether it's a referral scheme or a kind of like discount, or possibly, you know, as we were saying before, like giveaways and competitions and stuff, because those types of things will make people feel more excited and kind of engage with you in that way. But it is difficult sometimes when you build a community and you will naturally have people who are more passive, who kind of get involved sometimes, but a lot of the time just sit at the sidelines. And the only marketing person in my organization, practical community building tips for those was in the situation. Yeah, again, it's always a difficult situation when you are the only person in your organization. I would honestly say prioritize a platform. So think about, okay, if you want to build a community, just choose one platform, because you obviously have limited resources if you're the only person. So maybe, you know, assess whether you want to do it on possibly LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, or, you know, all these different, Facebook, possibly Twitter. Decide what is the best thing for you, for your workload, and then build a community on that particular platform. Within the course, I talk a lot about choosing your best platforms, and I kind of advise that you choose two. But if you are the only person in a marketing organization, in an organization, it might be that you only just want to choose one, because it can get quite difficult and sticky sometimes when you are the only person. Someone said, when you mentioned, okay, don't focus on vanity metrics, how would you measure impact? I think honestly it comes over time, and it does come down to, okay, how we built this in a long-term situation, but asking your community like how much they've been impacted, you know, getting those testimonials from people will naturally become customers. So I think it is in the long term about, okay, what have we got from this? Vanity metrics, I mean more kind of likes and comments, whereas you can measure things like leads and sales and stuff like that, but don't just focus on that. Also focus on the really nice stuff of people leaving you testimonials and people saying how great they feel as part of the community. So I would recommend kind of measuring, you know, email subscribers, blog readers, literally all of these different things. Maybe focus on what your CTAs are going to be from your community. So maybe it could be email subscriptions, because that's free. So you could say, okay, the way I'm going to try and convert my community once I've got them within my kind of grasp is that I'm going to get them to read blogs, or I'm going to get them to you know, be on our email list, rather than just hounding them with like constant products, saying, okay, we're going to like nurture them a little bit and kind of measure it in that way. But yeah, I wouldn't focus too much on kind of likes and comments, much more about the kind of business. What are we actually getting from this community? Okay. Chloe says, when is the internship program opening? Very soon, very soon. Okay. Fabulous. I know there's a few other questions, but please message me if you do have any other questions, because I feel like I can't go through them now. I don't want to keep anyone much longer. Feel free to connect with me. I know I put LinkedIn on the screen earlier, but if you missed it, it's just Olivia May Hanlon on LinkedIn. And it's an action shot from our event in May. So feel free to connect with me. I'm also on Instagram. I never like promo on my Instagram, but it's the exact same as, it's just Olivia May Hanlon, MAE, because I love to be different, not like the month. But yeah, it's been so lovely chatting to you all today. I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday, I'm going to finish recording this and put it in the email so that you can watch it via YouTube. Don't forget to purchase the e-course and let me know how you get on. If you've already got the e-course, message me, tell me how you found it, because it's so nice to hear lots of different things from all of you guys. And yeah, it was so lovely to see so many of you. I've just stopped sharing my screen and I can see all of their lovely names and some faces as well. So it's always so nice to see you. If you do have any questions, you want anything, message me. And it's been so nice to see you all. Hope you all have the rest of your week and it's not too bad. It's Wednesday tomorrow, middle of the week. Let's get through it. Let's do it. And I hope everyone is well. Fab. Well, I will see you all later. Speak to you soon. Bye.